So before I get into talking about the movie with you, I like throwing a curveball.
Okay.
You've done a lot of stuff. If
Yeah.
someone has actually never seen anything you've done before, what
Yeah.
is the first thing you want them watching and why?
It's that okay. That's such a mean question because I think it would be one of three. I think it's Walk to Remember, maybe, which is probably not the answer you expected. That feels really the most internally true for me. That's my internal life. Hairspray would be my external life. Does that make any sense to you?
It does, and there's no wrong answer here. It's just, there's going to be people watching this who've never seen anything you've done.
Right. Yeah, that's true. There and nor should they. But yeah, I mean, Walk to Remember is like this little teeny tiny sweet love story, and it's simple, and it's full of there's some curveballs in there, but it's because even if you get to like the thing with what's her truth and what's going on with her, what he then does is very unexpected, and it's pretty heroic for me. Like I hope to think that I'm that big a person and that good a person and that my love is that honest. Now, Hairspray is very much all my external stuff, all of my, I am Tracy. Like, I understand that with every fiber of my being. Why would anybody not want me to dance with? Why would anybody not want anybody to dance with whoever if we can all do this together? What is wrong with everybody? For crying out loud, just do what's right, because nothing else makes sense to her. So that feels also very, very true for me as well. But anyway, and then this movie is not to be all segue and stuff, but this movie is very, very true of my current state, which is the learning to accept the way the world works and wanting to and how am I happy? What is it that I need to do? How am I supposed to what do I need to do inside of the world in order to have the most peace and joy in my life? And that's to accept that life isn't always great and to really own that and go it's all of that stuff that makes the fabric of life rich and interesting, frankly. I wouldn't want it any other way. I wouldn't want happily ever after as it's prescribed in a fairy tale book. Like that because that means that life suddenly goes into a flat line of just blissed out nothingness,
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is it's something to that is that you might get bored if everything was perfect all the time.
1,000%. There's nothing to do. Life
Right.
stops.
Right. So I'm friends with a bunch of directors, and they all have been telling me about the chaos of the VFX industry and how shots are it's so difficult to get things done.
Yeah.
How did the VFX sort of bottlenecks that are existing affect your movie?
Quite a bit. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that I didn't see till very, very late in the game. I'm lucky that I worked with a team that largely got it right, because if stuff had come in late that had not been good and I'd had to send it back, I don't know that I would have it there. And, I think more than anything, what's people are dealing with, it's not the bottleneck is what the bottleneck is. The problem is it's the release schedule, everything. I think it says a lot about how much VFX is woven into the industry now and how dependent we are on VFX, that now our release schedules and how many movies are held back because of this. You know what I mean? It was there was some rough riding. I mean, I'm lucky. I got everything pretty much done.
I've spoken to a bunch of people that have not, and it's very interesting. So I have to ask you, you're a producer on Hocus Pocus 2.
Yes.
Massive hit for Disney Plus, just massive, right?
I
know this is going to be a huge hit for Disney Plus, but is there a little bit in your heart I wish it was in movie theaters?
Of course.
Because for me, I mean, I want the movie industry to survive, and they need movies. So there's that balance of, you know what I mean?
Oh my God, I'm so happy for your t-shirt right now. I just clocked it. Oh God, am I loving it? So happy. Anyway, yes, when this movie switched over from theatrical to like Hocus Pocus was always designed for Disney Plus. Like it was actually, I don't know if it would exist if it weren't for Disney Plus, to be perfectly honest. Like the service is the one that really convinced the higher ups to make it. Because streaming is just an animal that cannot be sated. It's just like you must continue to have all the content. Our movie flipped during early COVID, when they were really making all these determinations. Would I love there to be even a limited theatrical release of this movie? Of course. The movie is very big. The movie has scale. It also has sort of some operatic moments and big emotion and all of that tied to it. And also, I want to see Amy's and Maya's and everybody's performances 70 feet wide, because I'm a movie guy. That said, this is what it is. And I'm thrilled because am I going to miss no opening weekend and the terror of that? I'm not going to miss that terror like that. Like I'm good.
I was just going to ask you, there is some, as a director, there is some relief knowing I don't have to be worried about the Friday numbers.
Yeah. And I'm always worried about the Friday numbers. So it's like, especially like the kinds of movies that I have historically made are uncertain at the box office. So, so it's nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking. So I won't miss that, but the experience, I make a lot of comedy, and the experience of a shared laugh in a room is something I believe we could all benefit from these days.
How much did you guys debate on the story of what this movie would be? Because I'm quite surprised it's taken this long to make an Enchanted sequel. I've been asking Amy and everyone else for years, when is this actually going to happen? But I am curious how you guys ultimately decided on what the story was going to be that you wanted to tell.
They'd been working on it forever. I had a meeting at Disney. I talked to Sean about what the ideas were around this movie. And I said, can I walk away and think about it for a second? Because I might have an idea here. I came back. I pitched what is basically the story. And I think he found that really, really intriguing, and intriguing enough to put it into development in this direction. And then I worked with Barry, Richard LaGravenese, ultimately Bridget Hales, Amy, and then Alan and Steven, of course, to sort of make this go. But the story of Giselle not accepting the world as it is, like struggling with, living in the real world, feeling distant from herself, and then ultimately realizing she's consigned herself to being the stepmother, which is for Giselle a very bad thing, was always the pitch. That was always what, how we got her there. And also, I believe the story of turning the whole world into a fairy tale, that was something that I'd pitched too. And I was like, she's not a fish out of water in the world anymore, so you got to make everybody else the fish out of water. So, but it's tough because it's like, and this is very filmmaker-y talk, but it's like, I didn't have the fish out of water story to work at, which is most of the comedy of the first movie is the fish out of water hook. And it's also a romantic comedy was the first one. Well, unless I'm telling a divorce story with her and Robert, and then like that, nobody needs to see that. So now we're into so it's different. So how do you make the movie feel like the first movie without having any of the things that theoretically made the first one a big hit? I'll tell you how. Amy Adams and the rest of this cast. And that's what you do. You go with like, well, where have these characters gone? And you put them in a place where they are all patently dissatisfied with their lives.
I got to stop with you. I'm just going to say, I know it's going to be a huge hit. So
that's very kind of you to say.
I'll say congrats early, and have a fantastic day. Thank you for your time.
If you and Collider say it, it must be true.